currently with Severn Trent Services, but I have been with Severn Trent Water in the past. Before I start proceeding, I would like to say, I think the last time I saw this many Severn Trent Water people gathered around, eating sandwiches, chatting, and having a drink, I think it was the last time I was going to see you. Headquarters, Ronnie Martin. Anyway, we're here today to actually celebrate the fact that Dave, after a long, he says, is it 37? 36. 36 years with the, because we're having a debate about that, because I was talking about Jill and I said, is it 37? She said, no, it's 36. She said, but Dave, it's always had this thing about exaggeration.
Hey!
But I first came across Dave about 1998, and when he was working in Sugarbrooke, and I said at the time, well, how long have you been working with Severn Trent? And at the time he said 22 years, I believe it was, because he first started with East Worcester, I believe, in 76. 76, at the ripe old age of 20.
Yeah.
And I believe your claim to fame in East Worcester was that you were the youngest superintendent.
I was, yeah. Apparently.
And is your son still here?
No, he's not.
Did he realise you were a superintendent?
No, Jeremy.
Anyway, from that stage, you worked in East Worcester as a superintendent, I think, till 93.
Yeah.
Till Severn Trent bought East Worcestershire Water. And then you moved to Lower Wig, might be cool.
I did.
Yeah. And then you pushed the desk for a couple of years. Until I think that was when, I think Martin first met Dave down in Lower Wig days.
A brief year.
Yes,
Yeah.
a brief year when Dave moved over to distribution. And that's when I met him in 98 in Sugarbrooke. Since then, you've been county manager of Worcestershire. You've been area manager at West.
Regional manager
for production. And more latterly, been working in the commercial area of Severn Trent. So that's 36 years in a nutshell.
Well done.
Yeah. I think that's all who's known Dave are probably wondering what's he going to do. He's going to wake up Tuesday morning. Yeah. Because you've been talking today about you're in work today. Cleared your desk. Cleared your 5 high-vis jackets out of the garage.
I did, yeah.
I think some of those must be collector's items. So what are you going to do on Tuesday? Well, I think it was over Christmas we asked, because myself, Veronica, my wife, and Jill and Dave went out for a curry, discussing what's he going to do. He said, well, I'm thinking of being about becoming a consultant. First of all, I said, well, what in? No, but I think Dave's actually set himself up as a limited company and try your hand at consultancy, along with your golf, I believe.
Yes, that will always come first now.
You'll now, I don't know if you're going to be consultant, how are you going to have time to fit your golf in?
Well, golf will come first.
It was interesting because I was talking to Jill as well, because Jill's actually looking to get a new car. So I think one of the criteria wasn't it, Jill, that Dave's golf clubs could fit the back of it.
And they don't in an A3, thankfully.
So with that, it's I think everybody wishes Dave the best for the future. I'm sure we'll see him again. So, as a water consultant, I'm sure he'll be coming round with his
knocking
on the door. Yes, I'm sure you will be. So after 37 years, I'd like to wish Dave all the best. And,
Thanks very much,
very much. So I'd like to pass you over to Andy, who's got a few words to say from his colleagues in Severn Trent.
Okay, it's going to be wrong of me. I'm Andy Woodley, I'm the current manager.
For an hour.
Okay. So I've actually managed Dave for 2 years, and it's been an absolute privilege working with teams as we have a lot of knowledge and expertise that we bring to our department. And it's going to be a shame to let you go early retirement. You know, you've made that personal choice, and it's absolutely fantastic to have the opportunity to do that. I know you're going to step into consultancy, and I know you won't sit down. You'll keep working as hard as what you're doing with regards to Severn Trent Water, so that's really good. One thing I want to just say is, can everybody just stand still? Because I'm in the middle of the crime scene. If we look at this, I think Dave got a lot to answer for. I mean, I looked at these photographs. Steve was showing these earlier in the week, and I want to know why he looks like Peter Andre. And he's also the fifth Beatle. With a head like that.
Yeah.
So you're taking on the pop stars there, the pop stars thing. And Dave, do you really own a pair of Speedos like that?
Don't point out the
I've
trunks.
still got some.
Have you got some?
Not those, but
Keep them in a drawer. Okay, safest place for you. Safest place for you. So you started 13th of December 1976. I was 5. Little lad. So you kind of put that into reflection.
Still are.
You know, that's. Remember that.
It's all been noted.
Okay. 1976. So what kind of things happened in the events that happened in 1976? Well, the UK was struck by probably one of the biggest storms in January, which caused a lot of disaster. The UK Masters was won by somebody called Jerry Pate. Okay. And Chrysler stopped production of the L&M. But in 2003, they rebadged it and called it a Ford Focus. Which is obviously what you just brought. So, I think really what I want to do just to kind of bring that into conclusion is that clearly you've got some fantastic work on these, and these are all your friends as well. And I suppose, for me, it's great to have this friend.
Yay!
I didn't know you smoked. This is a bit of a
Cigars,
surprise.
yeah.
Cigars. There you go. Okay, we've had a collection. We know you want your golf buggy. That'll go a long way to get it.
oh, thanks very much.
Jill? So, it's not about just Dave being married to, Dave being
Married to
part
Zebra
of
Trent.
Water. Well, clearly, you're married to the job as well, aren't you?
Certainly am.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give Dave back to you. Okay. And I think with that, you need a little bit of a reward. Okay. So, Jill,
Thank
all
you very
the
much.
very best. And I hope
Cheers.
both of you have a wonderful retirement.
Thank you.
In terms of what you're going to do for the future, whatever that may be. So good luck to both of you.
Thanks,
Thank
Andy.
you, Dave. All the best, Jill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's my turn then.
It is your turn.
Easy when I me about smoke. Oh, no one's safe while over Dave's around. No one's safe while
I
Dave's
spoke to a
around.
lot of people that have retired and they said, forget your plan because you won't say what you want to say. First of all, it's nice to see everybody here, and I want to do some thanks first. I want to thank Andy, because Andy was instrumental in getting me actually out of the... Can you reword that? So yes, Andy organised it with Andy Nichols, who can't be here because I think he's going to be a dad imminently, isn't he? So I'd like to thank those two for allowing me to leave, because obviously there is some manoeuvring to be done when you retire early. But a day like this doesn't put itself together on its own, and Steve.
Only got a few photographs.
No, but Steve's organised the food, he's organised everybody here, he's sent the invitations out and all that. He's done a fantastic job, so thanks to Steve.
Anything to get rid of you, Dave. A small price to pay.
I know you've only turned up to make sure I go, but that's fine. You've taken time out of your busy schedules to come. I think a bit of reflection. 1976, as we've got, Andy was 5. Gail, who's one of my many managers, told me this morning she was only 3. When I joined in 76, it was a very, very different organisation that I worked for, in a very different world. I moved into the Redditch area as a plumbing inspector. Let's do water regs now, they called it. I'd spent sort of 4.5, 5 years as a plumber. Moved into this job mainly because I couldn't get a mortgage as a plumber because I had an injury to my knee, and I got £2.50 sick pay for a week. Went to see the building society manager for a mortgage, and he said, go away and get a proper job. Brother-in-law Phil, who's here somewhere, said, oh, there's a job as a plumbing inspector going in Redditch. So I applied and got the job. And when I moved in, I just couldn't believe it. And I was living at home then. I went home and told my mum and dad, I said, you know what, I said, it's like holiday camp there. I said, they don't make you go out at 8 o'clock in the morning. You can sit there for half an hour, have a cup of tea, you can have an hour for lunch, and it was a different world. Some of the things that the younger people won't appreciate is we were in a depot in Redditch, and in that depot was everything. There was a stores, there was main layers, there was service layers, there was water samplers, there was meter readers, and everything was self-contained there. Customer relations was done from that building. It was an admin clerk answering the phone, so if you lived in Redditch, the yellow pages said ring that number, and you got through to somebody in Redditch and spoke to them. We rewashed taps free. We did quite a lot of work with leakage in those days, but obviously not as intense as now. And really, it was just a different world. And it was a really, really good place to work. And Sunday nights were always the feature for me. Was I'd sit there Sunday night, I had a great weekend, and I think, oh, it's work tomorrow. And it was really, really nice to go to work. What's nice as well is to see all you people from the past. We've got, you know, Bob and Ray Chatt, who's just had a go, was a couple of years ago. Mark's turned up. Gary Sullivan, I didn't even know he was still alive. All the lads down there as well, nice to see you. Nice to see you, Davey. Thanks for the present this morning. And a few other reflections, really. I mean, it was East Worcester that got me going. And what really inspired me to move on from actually being an inspector was good managers. And I'm not saying there aren't good managers on Severn Trent, but when you're young and you want to get on, you get inspired by certain people. My first manager's name was Chris Olker, and Chris Olker was he was a character, but he took me on one side and said, you ought to be aiming to do this and aiming to do that. I worked, he helped me. A guy called George Devenish from years ago showed me how to get promotion, and his tactic was, apply for that job at South Staffs. So I applied for the job at South Staffs. I got a letter saying, you got an interview for this job at South Staffs. I then got dragged in by Les Hughes and Paul Simons. What are you doing applying for a job? And I got promoted. So there's all these sorts of ways that they did it. It was very interesting the way it worked. But family atmosphere there at the time, so there was a bit of that. And throughout the years, I've been really lucky. I've found very supportive. I mean, Martin, Jeremy over there were always very supportive in the early days of Severn Trent, and it was really difficult moving into the Severn Trent organisation in '93. I didn't enjoy the first 2 years. They stuck me in a job I didn't really want to do, at a place I didn't really want to be, working with people that really didn't want us there to start with. But I stuck at it. There was a guy called Mike Fowle who actually gave me a break. Not many speak highly of Mike, but Mike gave me a break and got me back into the work I wanted to do, and I moved on. And people have said, what would you do if you left school at the age of 16 again? What would you do? And I wouldn't do anything different. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed all the people. And that's really what I'm going to miss, is all you. So, thank you.